Hello and welcome to the January 2024 vlog update. It might be a little bit breezy, so thank you in advance for bearing with me on this one. I'm just really excited because this is the first outdoor vlog update I've had in probably about a year. And I'm just really excited to be out in the green on this gorgeous summer afternoon here in Melbourne. So yeah, on with the show and on with the new year, right? It's a very exciting one ahead. I have just started a brand new project, excuse me, called STARSEEDS Wanted, Enquire Within. And the sort of kernel of it, the sort of central concept is a full-length album of kind of experimental electronic with acoustic elements and sampled elements. But the idea is that all of the tracks will in some way be related to geometric concepts or patterns, like, for example, fractals or Platonic solids, or mathematical sequences like Fibonacci, and that sort of thing. And it's, just giving me an excuse essentially to completely nerd out in this area that I haven't really explored before. And in a way, it's almost intuitive that this bird that's over in the bushes here agrees. You can't stop cheering me on with this concept, right? The concept is basically giving me a chance to nerd out completely about things that should be intuitive in music. Music is all about patterns and exploration of sound and building on and interweaving repetitions of certain elements and exploring how those things can be built and modified, and in a way, I will just go down a rabbit hole if I continue, but it's also going to be very challenging, of course, as a concept, because I have always been very fascinated but also intimidated by mathematical concepts and physics. And I did my uni undergrad in engineering. I majored in chemical engineering, did a minor in bioengineering, and of course maths and trying to understand the building blocks of the universe essentially is what those areas of study were, both in a sort of mathematical context, but also, visualizing it with sort of models of how things might work, and those, of course, are constantly evolving. And not only did I sort of develop my understanding of that, kind of dipped my toes in the water in those areas at uni in undergrad with engineering, but then I did postgrad in psychology, which of course is also very mathematics focused. There's a huge emphasis on statistics in postgrad psychology, of course, which essentially is the identification of patterns within data sets, right? That's essentially the definition of statistics. Finding patterns, finding sense in what could otherwise be interpreted as random, unknown information. And I've always been surrounded by these ideas and different ways of expressing different patterns and the types of patterns that can exist and visual representations of them. And I feel like I want to learn how to explore those in terms of sound now, in terms of audio. And at the same time, I've always been very intimidated by these concepts because I am not a math whiz. I will straight up say that. I love the idea of understanding these things, but I definitely don't. I have a very vague, rudimentary understanding of some basics and have honestly struggled quite a bit beyond that at uni when I've been in maths classes. So this, I think, is going to really push me out of my comfort zone and make me explore ideas that maybe I've shied away from previously or felt inadequate with or just wasn't interested in at the time, but now I feel like it's the direction that I'm being pulled to go, and really almost sort of backpedal, go back in time and learn the things that I could have learned back then in a different way. So I'm very excited by this, and yeah, I just already doing some sort of prelim research and reading up on ways that other artists in the past have approached these sorts of concepts. Like, for example, this morning I did a little bit of an internet reading deep dive into the golden ratio and how that's been explored in music by certain artists over time. And there's this really, really cool piece by an electronic artist from 1977. Oh, it's John Cherning, I think, and I think that the piece was called Stria. I'll link to it in the description below. But of course, it was very experimental, and I'm not going to try to put words to it. Actually, there's an article that I read that pointed me to that piece, and I'll link to that article perhaps. And I think the piece itself is embedded in that article, so maybe I'll do that. And definitely check that out. It's we'll say that the golden ratio in that sonic interpretation is not as pleasing as, you know, the very lovely, aesthetically appealing visualization of the golden ratio spiral that we are used to seeing in artistic visual representations. It sounds perhaps not what one would expect for something like that, at least in this interpretation. And the approach that they took was very, very interesting as well. But anyway, enough yammering. Then there's also, of course, the Fibonacci sequence, and one of the most famous, I suppose, recent popular music explorations of that would have been Lateralis by Tool, that progressive metal band. And I'll link to that as well, which is another brilliant, brilliant song. And there's just so much to explore, and I am definitely going to take a long, I won't call it a fall into the rabbit hole, but I will definitely be taking my time, maybe floating gently through all of the different levels that happen to be sparkly enough to catch my eye at the time, right? And it's not going to be a fast process by any means, because I'm going to be learning as I go. And all of what I put out in this project is going to just be toddler's hand painting attempt to represent some of the ideas that have caught attention from the artist, from me, in that little tiny amount of time. But it's going to be a journey, and it's going to be a fun journey, and that in itself is what appeals to me, the learning the process and expressing as I go. So I'm very excited to be undertaking that. And I've also put out a bit of a call out to other creative people that I know, to see if anyone else would be interested in collaborating on this project in various ways. And I've had some really exciting feedback already. I've had a couple of other songwriters say that they might be interested in doing a collab, as well as a beat maker whose work I'm absolutely loving what she puts out. And the idea of having a beat maker on this project is so exciting to me, because of course, like, a beat maker on an album to do with mathematical and geometric concepts, it has to happen, right? There has to be some involvement therewith. And I am also going to probably at some point experiment with making beats and just toying around with different percussive patterns and arrangements that interweave. It's going to be fun. It's going to be super fun. And so that is my big project for the coming year, 2024. 2024. Wow. That feels weird to say. It's still blowing my mind a little bit, but time progresses onward, doesn't it? And so with that, I will stop my ridiculous, incoherent, or maybe semi-coherent enthusing here, and hopefully see you next time. Have a good one.